Happening now on Grid Tonight. Another show, another day, another case of racism in motorsports. When is the madness finally going to end? AJ Ford Racing is going through sponsorship woes, and some drivers' IndyCar's future might be in doubt. Who are those drivers, and could Ford be forced to drop a car soon? Matt White's here with your weekly grid history update in week 13 of the grid ranking. It's here a little later than usual, but we're on top of things here at Grid Network. What are the biggest changes after last week's action? Hello to all of our viewers watching here in the United States and around the world. Welcome to Grid Tonight, your weekly motorsports news program. I'm Kobe Lambert from Podium Finish, and with me as always, Adam Limmeries. I want to give a special shout out to our awesome Patreon supporters, Colin, Mark, Deschelle, and Robin. Thank you so much for investing in Grid Network. Link to our Patreon in the video description below. Please feel free to comment in the chat room, ask any questions, and engage in tonight's extremely important discussion. Let's kick off tonight's show with an update on a story we reported on just last week. Red Bull suspended Formula 2 driver Yuri Vips from its junior driver program for using a racial slur on Twitch while playing a video game online with fellow F2 and Red Bull junior Liam Lawson. He used the N word, which upset and angered many people because the word is extremely hurtful to the black community as it symbolizes the deep roots of racism.
Oh, I cracked him!
Oh my god.
Fuck. Oh, yeah.
Yuri.
Yeah.
Yuri, yeah.
Oh, fucking... Man, I hate snipers now. I keep fucking cracking them.
And since last Wednesday night, Red Bull made the decision to fire Vips, terminating his contract as a Red Bull junior driver. This will also end his duties as a test and reserve driver for the team. With the Red Bull funding coming to an end, it'll become more difficult for Vips to make it to Formula One. Despite losing his link to a top F1 team, his Formula 2 team, Hitech GP, is standing by Vips for the rest of the 2022 Formula 2 season. As you can see in their statement right here, team boss Oliver Oakes decided to give him the opportunity to redeem himself, allowing him to be responsible for his actions and try to show the type of person that he is. Hitech believes the language he uses totally unacceptable, but they believe Vips deserves a second chance. The team has an inclusive workforce and has never condoned racism or offensive behavior of any kind, calling the punishment he received from Red Bull deservedly severe. And by allowing Vips to continue, they want him to take matters into his own hands by demonstrating genuine and sincere remorse for his actions, but acknowledge the importance of making lasting changes to himself, not just short-term ones. Hitech fully understands this decision won't please everyone, but they stand and won't be they stand behind their decision, and they won't be making any further comments on this topic. So here's my question for you, Adam. Is Hitech sending the right or wrong message by keeping Vips in his race seat?
To me, Kobe, I think it's the wrong message. I'm glad what Red Bull did, and I think Hitech GP should have done the same. That word is not to be used anywhere, any given time. It shouldn't be even. That word should not be thought of whatsoever. I would, if I were Hitech GP, I would have done the same thing Red Bull did. It's to me, it's the wrong message, and hopefully we don't have to go through this ever again. Once is enough. And one more thing. To all our viewers watching, remember this. Think before you say something on social media. Act as if you were talking to a particular person in person. How would you want, you wouldn't want to say any negative language to them because they wouldn't appreciate it. Think before what you say on social media, and to me, Hitech GP should have done what Red Bull did and fire Yuri Vips.
Yeah, in a way, Yuri Vips has not really been punished for his actions at all. Yes, he's been punished in a way where he's going to lose that really important Red Bull funding to try to make it into Formula One. So that is quite a penalty within itself, and good on Red Bull for making that call to teach Yuri Vips a lesson by releasing him from the Red Bull Junior Driver program. But looking at the decision that Hitech GP made, I'm not sure if I really understand why. And I do agree with what Oliver Oak said about people deserving second chance. I think if Yuri really puts in the work to show that he deserves a second chance, then I believe that Yuri Vips should be able to come back and have a long, successful career in motorsports. But since Yuri Vips is scheduled to be in a car in just several days' time at Silverstone for British Grand Prix race weekend, you're not really punishing him. He's still going to be able to go out there, compete for race wins, try to get up there in the Formula 2 championship. So he still has something to go out there and fight for, and he'll still be earning a paycheck from the team. So I don't really understand the high tech's reasoning. Yeah, they're entitled to make all of the decisions that they want, but it really sends mixed signals. I think Red Bull got this one right. I think High Tech really got this wrong because you're still rewarding bad behavior by allowing Yuri Vips to continue in that race seat. And Formula 2 put out a statement that kind of caught me off guard. Yeah, and Formula 2 said following the recent incident involving Yuri Vips, Formula 2 would like to reaffirm that the use of racist or derogatory language cannot be tolerated in any environment. High-Tech Grand Prix decision today is surprising and not one we would have taken. Yeah, let me read that again. High-Tech Grand Prix decision today is surprising and not one we would have taken. And this is coming from the series itself. And they also said, we will monitor the situation carefully with them to ensure that such behavior is properly addressed. So, wow, I'm not sure if I've ever seen a series put out a statement quite like that to criticize one of the teams in the series for what it seems like Formula Two's calling them out as well, just as we just did, Adam, for making the wrong decision. If Formula Two is truly unsatisfied with High Tech Grand Prix's decision to keep Yuri Vips in the race seat for the rest of the season, should they just step up, use their authority to put their foot in and possibly ban Vips the rest of the year themselves, since High Tech isn't going to act?
Yes, absolutely, Kobe. I think if you know, uh, I'm so I'm surprised too. Like I just said, if I were High Tech Grand Prix, I would have done the same thing that Red Bull did. And to me, that is surprising. And that F2 statement, um, even the head person of F2 is surprised. I think we're all surprised that High Tech GP didn't fire Yuri Vips. I don't know what the boss of High Tech Grand Prix was thinking. They should have did what Red Bull did and fire Yuri Vips. To me, not firing Yuri Vips is a wrong message going forward. So I agree. I completely agree with the F2 statement 110%. I'm surprised High Tech GP did not fire Yuri Vips after using that word.
Yeah, I'm also surprised that High Tech didn't fire Yuri Vips as well. And the statement that Formula Two put out is just really crazy itself. I keep going back to what to what they said is that the High Tech Grand Prix decision today is surprising and not one we would have taken. And I think it's really unprecedented to see a series put out a statement quite like this. And I think Formula Two, if they truly feel this way, I think they should take matters into their own hands. If they think that High Tech made the wrong decision to keep Yuri Vips employed within the organization, Formula 2 has every right to suspend him for the rest of the season if they feel like that's the appropriate punishment. And given that statement, it wouldn't surprise me if those conversations aren't already happening right now, where Formula 2 going to step in and be like, Yuri Vips, yes, Hitech didn't get rid of you, but we're gonna step up. We're going to step up above them since we have the authority over all the teams and driver industries, and we're going to make the decision, and you're going to be out because you need to sit on the sidelines for a while because Yuri Vips racing this weekend is really just rewarding bad behavior. In my personal opinion, I think Yuri Vips needs to sit out for a while, think about what he's done, take the Kyle Larson route like we discussed last week, enroll in sensitivity training, do what you can to better yourself and get a better understanding of the world around you. So we'll be watching to see if Yuri Vips will take those steps or if Formula 2 will back up some of those strong words they use in their statement today and potentially push Juri Vips out of the Formula 2 championship for the rest of the year. And now on to our main story of the night. This week, Formula One is going to be returning to Silverstone, home of the British Grand Prix. Flashing back to last year, the first lap had one of the most memorable moments of the season. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen battled for the lead heading into Cops. Hamilton came up on the inside of Verstappen, a two-make contact, and Verstappen had a big very hard impact into the tire barriers. The reason we're bringing this up is disturbing old footage from last year recently emerged of three-time Formula One world champion Nelson Piquet Sr. discussing this particular incident. He blamed Hamilton for causing the crash, which is fair. We're all entitled to our opinions on stuff like that. But what he's not entitled to do is use a racial slur. Just like Yuri Vips, PK used the N word, but PK used it to describe Hamilton. Once the interview started circulating on the internet, people got really upset and demanded that action need to be taken. Formula One, the FIA, fellow Formula One drivers, teams, and Lewis Hamilton himself responded to PK's racist comment. Right here, Lewis Hamilton says, "It's more than language. These archaic mindsets need to change and have no place in our sport. I've been surrounded by these attitudes and targeted my whole life. That there has been plenty of time to learn. Time has come for action." And his team Mercedes right here has also responded saying, "We condemn in the strongest terms any use of racist or discriminatory language of any kind. Lewis has spearheaded our sports effort to combat racism, and he is a true champion of diversity on and off the track. Together, we share a vision for a diverse and inclusive motorsport, and this incident underlines the fundamental importance of continuing to strive for a brighter future." And Formula One released their own statement saying discriminatory or racist language is unacceptable in any form and has no part in society. Lewis is an incredible ambassador for our sport and deserves our respect. His tireless efforts to increase diversity and inclusion are a lesson to many and something we are committed to at Formula One. FIA has something to say. The FIA strongly condemns any racist or discriminatory language or behavior which has no place in sport or wider society. We express our solidarity with Lewis Hamilton and fully support his commitment to equality, diversity, and inclusion in motorsports. And we even have Formula E chiming in about this to show you how far and how wide this reaches. Formula E stands with Lewis Hamilton, the FIA, Formula One, and the motorsport community. We stand against racism and discrimination in all its forms. It has no place in our sport. It has no place in our world. And one of Lewis's title competitors right here, Charles Leclerc, put out a really nice statement standing with Lewis Hamilton as well. And then Lewis's teammate, George Russell, fellow Brit, said, "Huge respect to Lewis Hamilton. He has done more for the sport than any driver in history, not just on the track, but off it. The fact that he and so many others are still, in capital letters, having to deal with this behavior is unacceptable. We all need to stand together against discrimination of any kind." And Lewis Hamilton's old Formula One team, McLaren Racing, said they stand alongside Lewis Hamilton in Formula One. That racism must be driven out of our sport, and it's our shared responsibility to unite and eliminate it. A lot more people inside the motorsports industry responded to PK's awful comment, but we don't have enough time in tonight's show to show you all of them, and that really speaks volumes to show you the strong solidarity for Lewis Hamilton and the black community. Of course, one team and driver who didn't put out a statement is Red Bull or Max Verstappen, and there's actually a small conflict of interest here. Verstappen's currently dating Kelly Piquet, who is the daughter of Nelson Piquet Sr. Adam, what are your thoughts on Piquet's comment and the motorsports community as a whole standing up for Lewis Hamilton? Also, do you understand why Red Bull decided not to say anything here?
Well, Kobe, I'm happy to see a lot of people in the motorsports industry are standing up for Lewis Hamilton. And to me, Nelson Piquet Sr. shouldn't have used that word either. It's a word that shouldn't even be thought of, no matter what language you're speaking. It's a dirty word. And I'm really happy to see the motorsports community getting behind Lewis Hamilton. It was also cool to see Formula E chiming in on this, a series that Lewis Hamilton has never even taken part of. That shows you that people really like Lewis Hamilton in the motorsports community, and 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 I can understand why Red Bull didn't put out a statement. But I'm happy to see a lot of motorsports drivers and the entire motorsports community are behind Lewis Hamilton. To me, that was really nice what the entire motorsports community did, standing behind Lewis Hamilton.
Yes, it's really nice to see that Lewis and the black community have a lot of allies standing with them against all forms of racism. And I was really just taken back by the strong showing of solidarity as I just mentioned, that it was really crazy seeing all of the people all across motorsports standing with Lewis Hamilton on this issue. And I know we already showed you a lot of statements from people and teams across motorsports and even rival series, which is Formula E, and and there's still a whole bunch of comments out there. Like literally, I could have gone on and on and on and on and on. That just shows you how many people feel that Nelson Piquet Sr.'s comments were wrong, and that's how I felt about it. I thought they were absolutely wrong. They were despicable, and he should be deeply ashamed of himself to be using that type of language, especially at his older age, where he really shouldn't be using. Well, nobody should be using that type of language at all. No matter how mad you get at somebody, that shouldn't be one of the first things that jump into your minds. And looking at the interview in question, I'm not really sure why PK Sr. thought it was okay to say that because it's not. And I'm sure Lewis Hamilton going into his home Grand Prix is going to be feeling a whole lot of love from the motorsports world, and he's going to keep up the fight against racism. And as George Russell said, he hasn't just done a lot for the sport on the track; he's also done a lot off of it as well. Really trying to help change this well, I don't want to say it as a whole, a somewhat bigoted culture in motorsport, because that's really been a part of the culture in the past, and we've really started to shift that culture to be more inclusive for people from all walks of life. And again, back to the question about Red Bull, yeah, I understand why they decided not to come out. I wish Max would have said something. I wish Red Bull would have said something, but I understand there's a conflict of interest there with Max and Kelly Piquet, and I guess they don't want to upset anyone within the team by trying to make a comment there. And this isn't the first time that Nelson Piquet Sr. has found himself in trouble for making awful comments. He's said some derogatory things in the past about Nigel Mansell, Mansell's wife, Ayrton Senna, his fellow countrymen from Brazil, and Enzo Ferrari. And you wonder why the three-time Formula One world champion from Brazil is rarely mentioned among the great Formula One drivers in history. And there are credible reports from several media outlets that Nelson Piquet Sr. has actually been banned from the Formula One paddock, and we're certainly going to be following the story to see if Formula One is going to make the official confirmation that Nelson Piquet Sr. is indeed going to be banned. And Piquet did issue an apology saying, I would like to clear up the story circulating in the media about a comment I made in an interview last year. What I said was ill thought out, and I made no defense for it, but I will clarify that the term used is one that is widely and historically being used colloquially in Brazilian Portuguese as a synonym for guy or person and was never intended to offend. I would never use the word I have been accused of in some translations. I strongly condemn any suggestion that the word was used by me with the aim of belittling a driver because of his skin color. I apologize wholeheartedly to anyone that was affected, including Lewis, who was an incredible driver, but the translation in some media that is now circulating on social media is not correct. Discrimination has no place in Formula One or society, and I'm happy to clarify my thoughts in that respect. And here is a Twitter interaction I had with Grit Live Encore's Ben Snyder responding to PK's apology. Yeah, so once I read it, I tweeted, "You called someone the N word, but had no racial intent." Okay, and then Ben had to say that was the quintessential "I'm sorry, but" apology. At the bare minimum, he thought Yuri Vips came across as willing to cooperate during Red Bull's investigation and accept whatever the possible outcome is, while PK went on to make an excuse to try to come up with a defense for the what he said. Do you agree with Ben on PK's apology just trying to justify using the word? And if the reports turn out to be true, is Formula One right to ban him from the paddock?
Colby, I agree with what Ben said. 110%. Nelson Piquet Sr. is a former F1 driver. He used to compete with the Williams team a long time ago. So to me, I'm glad Nelson Piquet Sr. did put out a statement saying he was sorry for what he said about Lewis Hamilton. And I think, and to me, I think F1 is right about banning Nelson and Piquet Sr. from the paddock. Hopefully, the reports, you know, will hopefully there hopefully all these reports that we've heard will, you know, turn into a statement from the FIA saying Nelson Piquet Sr. is officially banned from the paddock. And like I said, I completely agree with what Ben said. On Twitter. Hopefully, Nelson Piquet Sr. has learned his lesson and will never use that word ever, ever, ever again. It shouldn't even be thought of, no matter what language you are, no matter what language you speak. It's one of the dirtiest words that someone could know.
Yeah, and it's not just the dirtiest word in the English language, it's the dirtiest word in all languages everywhere, all over the world. I totally agree with you, Adam. Hopefully, Nelson Piquet Sr. is going to get that word out of his vocabulary and never uses it again. I think Formula One would be making the right decision to issue a ban from the paddock for Nelson Piquet Sr. I'm not going to go as far to say, like a lifetime ban where you can never come back to any races ever again. Maybe just for a little while, send a message, maybe about 2 to 3 years, and then after that is passed to allow him to come back into the paddock. I think that would be a fair compromise there to let Nelson stay away from Formula One for the next couple of years or so. And I'm really glad that Ben brought up this point right here. I'm sorry, but and going back to Nelson Piquet Sr.'s apology right here, he admitted that what he said was ill thought out, and he said, "I make no defense for what he said, but," and then he goes on to make an excuse for why he said that, and tried to make it seem, that this is common in Brazilian culture. This is what people say, and all of that, and he basically blaming the media, people on social media for not understanding what he meant. I'll tell you one thing: the word in question. I went through several translators from Portuguese to English, and the one thing that came up in all of them is the N word. So I'm not really sure what defense Nelson Piquet Sr. Has there at the end of the day. I'm glad he issued an apology. Hopefully he'll learn from this. But as far as his apology as a whole, I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not completely satisfied with it at all because he didn't just apologize. He, as Ben said, he apologized, but and then made an excuse. I think it's just hilarious when people apologize for something and then they add but. So it just shows me that it really shows me that you're not 100% sorry for what was going on. You're just sorry that you got caught.
Amen, Kobe, and all of yours, chime in with what Kobe and I just talked about. We would love to hear what you guys have to say. It's a lot that we talked about, and so chime in with your question and comments. We want to hear from you guys. Do you are you behind Lewis Hamilton? And and about Nelson Piquet Sr. apology. We want to hear from you guys tonight. So chime in with any question or comments about what we just talked about. And now to the weekly Supercars spotlight story. Roland Dane will get back into the saddle as the team manager for Red Bull Ampol Racing's wildcard entry, set to be driven by former Bathurst 1000 champion Craig Lowndes and rookie Declan Fraser in this year's Bathurst 1000. And some news and to get our viewers some understanding about who Roland Dane is. In late 1996, Roland Dane, former driver Derek Warwick, and Ian Harrison founded Triple Eight Race Engineering, and they went on to become 6-time British Touring Car Championship Series champions. With the Works Vauxhall team, and then and actually Craig Lowndes won the team as first ever Supercars race in 2005 and went on to win 3 consecutive Bathurst 1000s from 2006 to 2008 with Jamie Whincup. At the end of last season, Roland Dane handed over the keys to Triple Eight's Operation 2, Jamie Whincup, who is serving as managing director and team principal. Roland Dane managed Sun Energy One Racing, AMG Mercedes AMG GT3 in the Liqui Moly Bathurst 12-hour earlier this year, and led the team to the overall win. His daughter, Justine, who will join her father as deputy team manager for the wildcard entry. And the photo you see of Roland Dane and Brock Feeney on the screen, it's courtesy of Supercars. And next, here's Kobe with some news from the NTT IndyCar Series.
AJ Foyt Racing is experiencing some sponsorship trouble with primary sponsor Rokit, going through some issues with payments needed to fund 2 of their 3 NTT IndyCar Series teams. Luckily, we'll see Dalton Kellett, Tatiana Calderon, and Kyle Kirkwood all competing this weekend at Mid-Ohio. However, the number 11 Rokit Chevrolet is the team with the most uncertain future. In a press release, the team said the future of the number 11 beyond Mid-Ohio is not guaranteed, which may put Calderon and J.R. Hildebrand out of a ride for the rest of the 2022 season. Calderon was scheduled to run all the road and street courses, while Hildebrand takes the car for the oval race. Team president Larry Foyt said they're trying to work through a difficult situation and acknowledged that Rokit has a desire to stay with the team as both sides try to resolve the issue. Finding alternative funding could be an option to keep the number 11 on track to finish the year, but trying to find sponsorship this late in the season is very, very difficult. The other Rokit car, the number 14, driven by Kyle Kirkwood, will complete the season. Kirkwood's car isn't solely dependent on funding from Rocket and the photo you see right here on the screen, taken by James Black from Penske Entertainment. How frustrating must the situation be for Tatiana Calderon, who's really just starting to get into a rhythm in IndyCar, or J.R. Hildebrand, who finally found an opportunity to do more races outside of the Indy 500?
Kobe, it's really, really difficult. And when I heard this news, I was very, I was very sad. You met, like you mentioned, it's hard to find a sponsor this late into the NTT IndyCar season. Tatiana Calderon, is in her rookie year, only doing the road courses and the street courses, and obviously G.I. Hildebrand is doing the ovals, and and I'm happy to see that Kyle Kirkwood will finish the season with the Rocket sponsorship, and hopefully AJ Foyt Racing can find another sponsor to replace Rocket, for Tatiana Calderon and J.R. Hildebrand. It's just very sad what they're going through at AJ Foyt Racing right now.
Yeah, it's a real sad thing they're going through at AJ Foyt Racing, but unfortunately, that's just the way business works in motorsports. Sometimes when you have these things happen when payments aren't made on time and sponsorships going through various issues, and the two drivers in question, Tatiana Calderon, J.R. Hildebrand, I'm sure it's been very stressful times for them. Tatiana Calderon trying out IndyCar after running sports cars and Super Formula over in Japan. Tatiana's had some good runs this season, and she's really coming to grip with IndyCar. She's also been a great ambassador for women in motorsports as well, racing in the IndyCar series. It's been a long time since we've had a female driver in IndyCar on a more regular basis, and I know a lot of little girls really look up to Tatiana and seeing what she's out there doing on a racetrack. And it would be such a shame if she's not able to continue, because it really seems like she's coming to her own in the IndyCar. And for J.R. Hildebrand, he's been running the one-offs in the with the Indy 500 for the last several years, but to finally be able to do additional oval races outside of Indy, I'm sure JR has been really excited to be in the seat more often than not, and for this to happen, I'm sure is really frustrating for JR Hildebrand and also Tatiana Calderon as well. And we'll see if that number 11 road kit Chevrolet you see there on the screen will be able to compete beyond Mid Ohio, but it's looking really gloom right now. Never say never. AJ Foyt Racing might be able to find the sponsorship to keep that number 11 going, but at this point in the season, I gotta admit, it's really going to be hard to do it, because sponsorship deals, you usually need to have those lined up months in advance. So right now, best thing that Tatiana Calderon can do in that 11 car, go out there, just try to do the best you can and have a really good mistake-free day, because at the end of the day, that's really all you can ask for, especially when the situation is totally out of your control and there's nothing you can do about it. And move on to a IMSA story. Following his motocross accident, Jack Hawksworth still isn't ready to return to racing after missing the last three events at Mid Ohio, Belle Isle, and Watkins Glen. Substituting for him in the IMSA race at Canadian Tire Motorsport Park this weekend, Toyota Gazoo Racing factory driver Kamui Kobayashi joining Ben Barnicoat in the number 14 Vassar Sullivan Lexus in GTD Pro. This will be Kobayashi's first time racing in a GT car in IMSA competition after making all of his previous starts in the DPI class. Putting Kobayashi in the Lexus is a no-brainer because, number one, he's available, and number two, Lexus is Toyota's sister brand in America, and the graphic you see right there on the screen, courtesy of Vassar Sullivan. Next, here's Matt White with a grid history update.
Hi everyone, Matt White here. It's that time of the week again where we take a spin around the motorsport world from this past weekend and bring you up to speed with what has been going on. Before we do that, don't forget to check out grid_history on Twitter, where every day we post a motorsport memory. Today, we've gone back to 1999. On this day, Michael Schumacher took the win in the French Grand Prix at Magny-Cours, his 25th win of his illustrious Formula One career. So check that out on grid_history on Twitter. So result-wise then, from a very busy weekend around the motorsport world, we'll start on two wheels at Assen, where MotoGP were in action their last round before the now 5-week summer break, and Francesco Bagnaia will go happy to the holidays with a victory in the top class for Ducati in a fractious race, let's say, for MotoGP, and lots of things rumbling around this week coming off the back of that one. In Moto2, Augusto Fernandez took his second win on the spin after winning at the Sachsenring last week. He won again this week in Assen, and Ayumu Sasaki was the winner in Moto3. Touring car wise, British touring cars are in action up north this week, in Josh's part of the world, realistically. At Croft, Dan Lloyd, a double victory for him coming off the back of that big accident at Alton Park, which almost wrote the Hyundai off. They got it fixed and got him back out at Croft, and he won the first and second races of the day. Gordon Shedden, the winner for Honda, in the third round of the weekend. In Spain, the World Touring Cars were in action at Aragon. Joe Magnus and Mikel Ascona getting a win apiece. At Nashville, the truncated cup race was finally won by Chase Elliott after a long delay. Justin Allgaier won on Saturday in the Xfinity race, and Ryan Preece in his part-time schedule won again in the Truck Series. And congratulations to Kalle Rovanperä on winning the Safari Rally in only his second attempt. A 1-2-3-4 historic one for Toyota, completely sweeping the weekend out there in Kenya. Let's have a look at the Endurance Performance Index. Results from the weekend. A couple of races that we saw. Most of them happened in Germany. Or one of them happened in Germany. It was at the Nürburgring, the fourth round of the Nürburgring Landstrecke Series, the NLS. Won for Audi by the Phoenix Sport team of Kuba Gemasiak and René Rast. In the German Championship, although they were racing in Holland at the weekend, the ADAC GT Masters, Konsta Lappalainen and Mick Wischhofer took the win on Saturday, and Jack Aitken and Albert Costa winning for Lamborghini on Sunday. Raffaele Marciello, our point leader, was in both of those races at Zandvoort this weekend and did not pick up a single point. Jules Gounon has picked up a fourth place on Sunday, so he's now within a race win's worth of points behind Marciello, so the gap has closed dramatically at the top of the EPI. We know that Ricky Taylor and Philippe Albuquerque won at Watkins Glen in the 6 hours in another truncated and weather delayed race, and at the time of recording this, we're not entirely sure on who's got what results in the lower classes. So the IMSA Watkins Glen race will be added to scoring as part of the next week's update on the show, because they're back in action again this week in Canada up at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park. We've got the European Le Mans Series this weekend and more GT World Challenge Europe action as well, along with the Silverstone Grand Prix. So plenty of stuff to tell you about on next week's drop-in on Grid Tonight. That's the API and results update for this week. We'll see you next week. Enjoy the rest of your week.
Thank you, Matt. And before we move on to our next segment, I have to correct something I said in the previous segment. Jack Hawksworth actually did compete at Mid Ohio, but he was in the GTD class that day, not the GTD Pro class, since they weren't at Mid Ohio. So he didn't miss the last three races, but the race coming up is going to be the third consecutive race that he missed because of that motocross accident. Hawksworth did not compete at Belle Isle, not at Watkins Glen, and he won't be at Canadian Tire Motorsports Park either. So the race this weekend, that'll be the third straight race he missed. So for Milanda, certainly wanted to correct that, and apologies for that. And now week 13 of the grid ranking was released late Sunday following the conclusion of the NASCAR Cup Series race. The big change in the top 10 was Fabio Quartararo dropping from second to fourth place, and outside of the top 10, Chase Elliott made it back in the grid ranking in 32nd. Kalle Rovanperä closing on Shane Van Gisbergen with his fourth win of 2022, a 66% win rate, compared to SVG having a win rate of 60%. World Rally Championship schedule's longer. Shorter than Supercars, so an advantage for Rovanperä to close up the gap and pass SVG for the 2022 Grid Ranking Championship. Do you think Rovanperä can maintain a higher win rate than SVG?
Kobe, I may be a Supercars expert here at Grid Network, but I think sometime later on the summer, we're going to see a new grid ranking leader. And to me, I think it is going to be Kalle Rovanperä from the World Rally Championship. Shane Van Gisbergen hasn't been the best in Supercars lately. He didn't win any any races at the Hidden Valley Raceway in Darwin, and the next time that Supercars is on track is at the Reed Park Street Course in Townsville. So, and to let our viewers know, it's those races are going to be 88 laps each. And yes, for the first time since the opening races at the Sydney Super Night, we will see refueling. So, to me, I think Collie Rovanperä can maintain a higher winning percentage over SVG because there are so many good drivers that we see in Supercars right now. So, like I said, I think sometime this summer we will see a new good ranking leader, and his name is Collie Rovanperä.
And the numbers are actually on Rovanperã's side right now because he needs to win at least 4 more races to maintain a 66% win rate with 7 races remaining, while Shane Van Gisbergen needs to win 10 more races to maintain a 60% win rate with 18 races remaining in Supercars. So definitely the numbers are on Collie Rovanperã's side here to potentially go out there and try to seal that grid ranking championship over Shane Van Gisbergen, and maybe to come down to the final race this year. I don't know. Probably not. Probably going to get wrapped up a little bit earlier. Yeah, because I remember the grid ranking championship last year came down to the very end of the Bathurst 1000 when Shane Van Gisbergen was in position to win it, and then had an issue late in the Bathurst 1000, and then just like that, Sebastian Ogier ended up taking last year's grid ranking championships, and it's certainly always fun following the grid ranking year in and year out. And last year, SVG had a 46% win rate, but only with a total of 30 supercars races. Yeah, so Shane Van Gisbergen 60% to 46% last year. I mean, it's really interesting looking at those numbers because he seemed extremely dominant last year, and with only 46%, that number was actually a little bit surprising to me.
Yeah, I was surprised too, Kobe. And next news from mainland China. For fans who love the Macau Grand Prix at the end of the year, we have some disappointing news to share. Unfortunately, the FIA GT World Cup, WTCR, and FIA Formula 3 World Cup races won't take place this year, with all those events getting canceled. Last year, the Macau Grand Prix did take place, but only had local racers. And let our viewers know, the F3 race has produced some of the greatest drivers in F1 history. You've heard of them. Names like Ayrton Senna, Michael Schumacher, and so many others have raced in the prestigious F3 race at the Macau Gia circuit. The race won't be able to take place this year due to the COVID-19 quarantine restrictions, ongoing logistical challenges, and Macau's following China's zero COVID policy. So, unfortunately, all you fans that love Macau, not going to happen this year. But hopefully in the future, Macau Grand Prix will come back and showcase some of the best F3 drivers. And also the Macau Grand Prix hosts a motorcycle race as well. So, and that always indicates some of the best motorcycle road racers from England, Northern Ireland, the UK. So no Macau Motorcycle Grand Prix either. And with that being said, it's now time for everybody's favorite game here at GRIDnet Network, Pick a Winner. We take a look at our updated leaderboard. Kobe is still on top with 26. Alex Fleener from Twitter is second, Joe and I are tied for third after yours truly correctly guessed Kali Rovanpera and went to racing to win the Salem 6 Hours of the Glen last weekend. And then our colleague Matt White is fifth and used the hashtag pick a winner on social media. And you can see your name here on our leaderboard. And there's a lot of motorsports action across the world. So tonight, Kobe and I are going to make our picks as Formula E returns. Now, originally, the schedule that was put out, they were supposed to have gone to the beautiful city of Vancouver, British Columbia. Unfortunately, that's not happening. So this weekend, Formula E is headed to another beautiful city, the city of Marrakesh, Morocco. And with that all being said, all right, Kobe, who wins the Marrakesh E-Prix in Morocco?
And before I share my pick of winner, if you want to respond to that Macau story, right quick, I just know one thing. When the Macau Grand Prix finally returns to full, I'm going to appreciate that event a lot more than I did before because it's been several years since we've had a real Macau Grand Prix weekend. I really appreciate what the locals have done, last year and all of that. But watching Macau, it just didn't feel the same to me. I know they did the best they could to try to put on a show for everyone, so I'll give them a lot of credit for that. But when Macau really returns, I'm gonna be in front of my computer watching all of the action and really appreciate it because Macau is just a really great event. Really like the F3 races and also the GT World Cup as well. And for pick a winner, since we have the stats here, I'm actually gonna take a quick peek at the grid ranking to see who I should pick for Formula E, and he's right there sitting in eighth place. I think Stoffel Van Dorn and the Mercedes is going to get the job done in Marrakesh and Formula E's return to the country of Morocco.
Even though I'm trying to catch you, Kobe, I'm also going to look at the grid ranking standings. And yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you. I think Stoffel Van Dorn gets it done in Morocco. And we have a lot of racing this weekend. F1, the W Series returns, along with F1 at Silverstone, among others. So we're going to be really busy, keeping up with all. And then we have a comment from Michael Tiller tonight, and he says, in terms of BK's comment, I only know so little. As much as I agree that the three-time champ should be reprimanded, seeing him banned from the paddock for life, I don't know about that. Michael, we thank you for your comments as always. And we have a lot of more sports action that we'll be covering this weekend at Grid Network. So be sure to stay tuned to our pre-race show on Saturday at noon and our post-race show on Sunday. And with that, I'll throw it over to my colleague, Kobe Lambeth, as he wraps up another edition of Grid Tonight for this Wednesday.
Yeah, Michael. I just wanted to say if you missed our section talking about the Nelson Piquet Lewis Hamilton incident, you can be sure to go back to the very beginning and watch what we had to say about that. And we actually talked about a lifetime ban for Nelson Piquet Sr. And I said that I think a lifetime ban was a little much for this. We suggested maybe about 3 years, maybe, and then allow him to come back after that because we agree that a lifetime ban for that is probably really, really excessive. And it's certainly going to be interesting to see what Formula One is going to do in terms of that. And with that said, that's it for tonight's episode of Grid Tonight. Please be sure to like and subscribe to Grid Network here on YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We encourage you to take 5 minutes after our show tonight and consider joining our Patreon, invest in Grid Network to keep us on the air well into the future. Do you want to buy me a coffee? Click the link in the video description below and you can buy a drink for your favorite on-air talent here at Grid Network. A big thank you to Edward Hunter from Formula E Zone, Amber and Zachary for buying us one. We truly greatly appreciate it, and any amount will help us continue growing our motorsports media outlet. Public.com. Be sure to visit that, also known as our stock market social media home. The link below our referral code GRIDnet gives you $5 to invest immediately. Public.com allows you to connect with your friends. You can make new friends and use tools to learn how to properly invest in the stock market. And looking at our schedule for the upcoming week, Thursday, check out a new episode of Women in Motorsports. Saturday, Grid Live pre-race at noon Eastern, and then Sunday, Grid Live wrap up 90 minutes after the NASCAR Cup Series race at Road America. And before we go for tonight, have another comment from Michael Tiller said that you agree a lifetime ban is too much, a year or so that seems more fair, but seriously, don't be hard. Three-time champ, yeah, maybe Formula One will only ban him from the paddock if those reports turn out to be true for just a couple of years instead of for life. I can't imagine they would do it for life. And then final comment here from Michael saying, but always nice to be here. You guys take care. You take care as well, Michael. Appreciate you for tuning in for tonight's show. And for Adam Lemmeries, I'm Kobe Lambert from the Podium Finish. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.